gee, it's me, your old schifoso, Bibi the Bozo, with an offer you can't refuse. We're gonna bring you a complete collection of the Whitehouse basement tapes, courtesy of the Republican Party. What a party! You're gonna get all the greatest themes of the Nixon years, including this classic hit.
One other thing I probably should tell you, because if I don't, they'll probably be saying this about me, too. We did get something a gift after the election. A man down in Texas heard Pat on the radio mention the fact that she doesn't have a mink coat. And believe it or not, the day before we left on this campaign trip, we got a message from the Union Station in Baltimore saying they had a package for us. We went down to get it. You know what it was? It was just a little less than $10,000. Every cent of that, incidentally, was in government bonds. And I just want to say this right now, that regardless of what they say about it, we're going to keep it.
Yes, corporations have been government Dick Nixon for years, and that's why they pick an old Nixon bagman like me. But listen, hey, Paisan, you said now you're also going to get this beautiful speech.
When I was inaugurated for a second term this past January 20th, I gave each member of my cabinet and each member of my senior White House staff a special 4-year calendar with each day marked to show the number of days remaining to the administration. In the inscription on each calendar, I wrote these words: "The end justifies the means. Two wrongs make a right. I should come first, and this nation second."
That's so beautiful it makes me sick. But you're also gonna get something that old fungal Sarika ain't never gonna get. No way, no how, no time.
The two tapes did exist. I think I know what is on these tapes from having listened to some, and I can assure you that those tapes will prove these things without question. First, with regard to the tape of June 20th, as you may recall, it was a 5-minute telephone conversation with the former Attorney General John Mitchell.
Hello, John. I called to reconstruct the evidence. Richard, do you remember the party you had? Certainly. I know damn well who did what to whom under what circumstances. I saw this thing coming. The call girl bit me. I know. You walked into one there. And I congratulate you, sir, for having such a lively staff. I have domestic problems. I had a few problems in 1968. I'm sorry. What the hell happened? Well, I was, shall we say, a rather active vice president. I had a firm staff, and I stuck it out. I had been spending a better part of the previous week trying to smooth this situation over to the point where that I could stay as husband and wife. She'll come across. Well, I can make all kinds of excuses. You ought to do the same thing. I can't. I lack adequate intelligence. Now, turning to the Watergate matter. I was hoping that would come up. You, John Mitchell, must take responsibility for those mistakes. I disagree violently. You can be very sure that this conversation was recorded for purposes of blackmail. Anything wrong? Let's not discuss it any further.
That was what was on that tape. Turning to April 15th, the conversation referred to there was at the end of the process in which Mr. Dean came in to tell me what he had told the U.S. attorneys that day. Mr. Dean,
3 weeks ago, I spoke to you about our policy for meeting it.
I didn't know much about it.
When I spoke to you, I indicated that had turned into a major crisis.
Hunt has been promised executive clemency.
I asked to help deal with this sin of a...
There are money demands being made by the 7 convicted defendants.
Will make a very substantial contribution to our... But there is much more to be done. First, The fifth step involves, but we will have to plan for it more carefully.
Obviously, this area would have to be researched.
Nothing we do can succeed, however, without the full cooperation of
Mr. Haldeman, Mr. Ehrlichman.
all of you must endure real hardship. For my part, I pledge to do everything in my power to all the American people. I intend to the American people on a regular basis. Let me conclude by restating our overall objective. It can be summed up in one word. That word is...
And you're gonna fall right on your labanza when you hear this. Listen good.
I have a quality which I guess I must have inherited it from my Midwestern mother and father, which is that I'm frantic, hysterical, brutal, shell-shocked, unable to act. I'm a tyrant, dictator, and I should be impeached.
Yes, compadre. You're gonna get every one of Nixon's hits except the lead doctor maternity hospital in downtown Hanoi.
My fellow Americans, I proudly present to you the man whose name I will submit to the Congress of the United States for confirmation as the Vice President of the United States. I'm speaking of my friend Mr. Rebozo. And the man I have selected is little Jack Horner, no Glenn Miller, John Mitchell, Mr. Kleindienst, Baron Burr, Jefferson, Lincoln, Harry Truman, Lyndon Johnson.
Hey, and this beautiful tape, you're gonna wanna lock her away in your safe deposit box forever and ever.
I want these to be the best days in America's history. Because I love America. I deeply believe that America is the hope of the world. And I know that in the quality and wisdom of the leadership America gives lies the only hope for millions of people all over the world, that they can live their lives in peace and freedom. We must be worthy of that hope in every sense of the word. Tonight, I ask for your prayers to help me in everything that I do throughout the days of my presidency to be worthy of their hopes and of yours. God bless America. And God bless each and every one.
Ask Jellyface, don't you go to sleep, because you're gonna get the one, the only, living, walking, talking, breathing Kennedy brother singing his big hit, Wake Up, Little Mary Jo. That's the call to equal time.
I have an energy crisis, and I
Need more power.
And you're also going to get two of my personal favorites. One of them is Chief Justice Warrenberger and the Supremes singing my song, BB Love. And also this exciting tape.
Mr. President, do you swear that the testimony that you shall give to the Senate Select Committee on Presidential Campaign Activities shall be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
No, not about Watergate. That might be embarrassing. I would certainly not be standing here answering these questions unless Congress put a gun to our head. That's our American system. It's a lousy system. I frankly wish we hadn't had a system at all, then I wouldn't have to answer this question.
Let me ask you something that I think is very important.
Would you mind asking me about the milk?
I don't
You will? Fine. I'll answer this and then I'll go to the milk in the back.
President Nixon, who was the author of the Whitehouse horrors?
I wrote one and I will stand by it. I signed it.
Is that your ex-mark?
Certainly. I signed everything I can this way.
I'll ask you, as a lawyer, if you do not think that surreptitious entry or burglary and the electronic surveillance and penetration constituted a violation of the Fourth Amendment.
Yes. As a matter of fact, I specifically ordered the entrance into Dr. Ellsberg's psychiatrist's office. I personally thought it was a stupid thing to do.
Did you advise the participants that they were essentially participating in a conspiracy to commit a crime?
There's some things about this I haven't told them, but we saved half the cost.
President Nixon, isn't it the fact that you didn't want the American people to find out about it?
Yes. There was something on those tapes that wouldn't be wise to get out. And I directed the White House counsel, Mr. Ricahrd, to keep the recording from the public, to make sure that there are difficulties in hearing them. I mean to suggest by that the judge, by listening to them, will not be able to get the facts.
What about the raising of funds to pay off the defendants?
Mr. Hunt's attorney asked for $120,000 in money to be paid to him, or he would tell things about Watergate. Now, why did I pay this amount? It wasn't because of the deductions for, shall we say, a cattle ranch or interest, or, all these gimmicks that you got where you can deduct from, which most of you know about, I'm sure. But the reason was this. We're guilty of something. I obstructed justice. But then the question was raised. How could you possibly have had the money? Where did you get it? Well, I'm a crook. I profited from public service. I made a lot of money. And I'm not claiming I was worth it. I have $1 million in campaign funds. And so that's where the money came from.
I'm going to repeat a question that was asked of you by Senator Inouye. And I'd like to have an answer to it. Senator Inouye asked you, to what length are you now willing to go to deceive in an effort to avoid further implication?
First, just to put it all out, I'll give you $47,000 and a 1958 Oldsmobile that needs an overhaul.
Let me ask you about one more piece of testimony. The meeting on March the 22nd, which you had with Mr. Haldeman, Ehrlichman, and Dean.
That weekend, I was in a John with Mr. Peterson. No, seriously, I hold that it probably doesn't make any difference whether they're tried or not, because that's our American system. I know that this group has asked very good questions and very appropriate ones. I was hoping you'd ask me about the milk. Well, since you haven't raised some of these subjects, I'll raise them myself. This administration, in 1971, raised the support price for milk as a quid pro quo for a promise by the milk producers that they would contribute substantial amounts, anywhere from $100,000 to $2 million to $10 million to our campaign. And that's why it was done. And that's the truth.
Yes, you're going to get every one of the famous Watergate tapes. And Dickie Nixon, he's going to give them to you free. That's right, free, free, free. Because that way, he gets another $500,000 tax deduction.
But if you feel you need more information, write to me, and I'll give it to you for $300,000.
Just send your checks, or your money orders, or your sister, your finger, your dirty shorts, anything you got. The Vasco Enterprises, Nicaragua. Listen, Honduras, anywhere. We're going to find you. You find us.
Good evening. Now that most of the major witnesses in the Watergate phase of the Senate committee hearings on campaign practices have been heard, the time has come for me to speak out about the charges made for the American people. I shall not attempt to deal tonight with the facts. My effort throughout has been to hide the facts. On May 22nd, before the major witnesses had testified, I issued a detailed statement addressing the charges that had been made against the president. My statement has been contradicted by every witness in a position to know the facts. And I state tonight, I had prior knowledge of the Watergate break-in. I took part in subsequent cover-up activities. I engaged in illegal campaign tactics. On September 12th, at a meeting that I held with the cabinet, senior White House staff, and a number of legislative leaders, Attorney General Kleindienst reported on the investigation. He told us it had been the most extensive cover since the assassination of President Kennedy. I relied on the best law enforcement agencies in the country to cover up the truth. I believed they had done so, just as they believed they had done so. Turning now to the basic issues which have been raised by Watergate, I stand for excessive partisanship, for enemy lists, for efforts to use the great institutions of government for partisan political purposes. The institutions of government must be used against the people. Those who insisted on the old restraints must be punished, brutally suppressed, shouted down, or even physically assaulted. If there are laws we disagree with, let us work to change them. But let us not obey them until they are changed. Many have urged that in order to help prove the truth of what I have said, I should turn over to the special prosecutor in the Senate committee recordings of conversation that I held in my office or on my telephone. However, the tapes implicate the president personally in the illegal activities that took place. If I were to make public these tapes, no one would want to speak to me. Thank you, and good evening.
Bonus time! Bonus time! You send away right now! You're gonna get free at no extra cost to you! The other side of this record! Tanto, prego, dago, ciao, linguini, help! I'm running out of a Cuban!